much for your submission and taking part in this conversation. So the next speaker, so we're still taking questions, guys. So if you want to shoot something to the law experts on the panel, please, this is the moment. So I've accepted more requests. I've added some more guys as speakers. So shoot those questions, guys. Shoot questions. I'll give it to Fred. Fred, you can proceed.
Well, thank you so much, Big Brother Nyakundi. We really appreciate what you are doing. You've been a public watchdog for quite a long time. I know you've met challenges, but you've sailed through. And thank you to the Faith Odhiambo, the LSK president. We really adore what you are doing and we cherish. We will never forget. So, having said that, I just want to be as brief as a cock on a hen. I don't want to take much time on this. I just want us to encourage the wananchi, so that I think we don't even need an opposition like the politician oppositions. If wananchi can take the mantle and remain the opposition of this country, like we've done in the past few weeks or months, then we can bring these people into book and we can really ensure that this country moves forward. Because for quite some time, we've seen culprits been walking away with serious crimes in this country, tampering with the evidences, killing witnesses. The public officers has just been there, like their, the public coffers has just been their cookie jar. They walk in anytime, they walk out, and nothing happens to them. An example is like all the deaths that we've seen. It's like these people, like all of them committed suicide because no one has ever been brought to book. Tukianzia mpaka time ya Kiamba, no one has ever been brought to book. So did these people commit suicide? No, these people were killed. This time I want like the public, we the people. I like that word, we the people. Let's walk strong. Let's always put them on toes. If you have any evidence as a whistleblower, kindly ensure that maybe you don't have that courage like our brothers Nyakundi have, ensure that you give it to him. Once he has substantiated that, I know he's going to bring it into public. And once he's done that, we take over again. We pile the pressure, we push forth, we march, we do anything until we see the fruits again. Accountability should be something at all time, be in plain black and white. We thank God because of the social media now. You know, back then when we were meeting, you need to have a permit. If a number of these given, what's in 5 or what? You have to have a permit constitutionally, yeah, so that you can have those meetings. Like in easy, we are here like over 10,000 plus in this space. We have now the technology. We can always meet wherever we are. We come into one and we march forward. So whistleblowers, do not hesitate, do not fret. Give those evidences to whom you trust and ensure it's something crucial. Advantage these youths have, even the so-called Gen Zs, over these old folks, they've never worked. And huwezi chambua mtu hajaifanya kazi with anything corruption. But you who've worked, we are going to chambua huko chini. We are going to chimba everything because you've worked, and I'm sure in a public office you've worked and you've stolen. In any public office, these people cannot beat us. Anybody who's ever worked, we know them. These people have just carteled their way through all to the top seat. We've seen others who've never been employed. Not even in the single company. Or they employed, but they are up there and they are the advisors. They don't have even the papers. Like huko juu, papers ziko forged. No time walikuwa kwa classes. No evidence that walikuwa kwa classes. These things should end. Mine is just as brief as that. Pressure. Never cease, never stop. Thank you. I'm dropping the mic so that anyone else maybe want to give his opinion. Aendelee.
Okay. Thank you so much for your views, bro. So, guys, like I said, we've tried to gather some legal experts into the call. So, given the recent political changes, we have to understand the legal implications of these developments. You'll have to forgive me. I am co-hosting this space from a public event. So, guys, you'll have to bear with me in case you get to hear some background noise. But with the resignation of the IG, the solution of the cabinet, there are many legal questions. So, guys, I'm giving you the space to shoot those questions. So, I think Gabu is back on the call. I tried getting back Gabu on the call when he started. I don't know if he can hear me. Wait, Gabu actually contributed. Okay. I'm gonna remove you from the speakers list. Okay, I think Maya, now you can continue. Maya, you've been on the call for some time.
And remove me too kindly so that someone else can get the speaker, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Maria, can you kindly proceed? Okay, guys, seems we can't get
Mariah. It's Mariah. Mariah, are you there?
She's unresponsive. So, guys, okay, we'll just proceed to the next speaker. So, I've got G. Mutheu, she's on the call. G. Mutheu, kindly proceed. Yes, I can hear you.
First, naweza penda na kwanza na my condolences, to send my condolences to our fallen soldiers and send my flowers to Madam Faith Odhiambo. She's doing a very good job. So I have two questions. Ya kwanza ni we are being overrepresented, and some of the seats ziko hazi reflect, like their work hazi reflect, like the women rep seat, like the Senate. Some seats ziko tu hapo, we don't see what they're doing. Yeah, we're just being overrepresented, yet at the end of the day wanapokea mshahara. So is there a way tunaweza cut off some of those seats and pia ziwekwe some limitations, because some of the people hapo, kama I can give example of Kivuda Kibwana, alimaliza terms zake 2 za governor, alafu sasa akaamua ni kurudi kukua senator. So they are making it look like political sasa imekuwa, politics imekuwa sasa ni career, hawataki kutoka hapo. And then the other thing ni about IDs. I'm not sure if Madam Faith is aware that pia kuregister IDs is being paid for, na pia these IDs have expiry. So is there a way that this inaweza change, because IDs na expire na 10 years? Does it mean that hiyo ID kimaliza miaka zake 10 na acha kuwa Mkenya? Does that mean like sasa if I don't have the money to go and register, or I've lost my ID accidentally, does that mean like sasa nimeacha kuwa Mkenya because sina pesa ya kuendea ID? And then the other thing about corruption and everything, I've heard someone talk about it. We should start it from huku chini. Like, let's bring up our children to be honest and let's teach them integrity. Kuna wengine huku wanalipiwa mashule, hakupata grades zenye zingempeleka national, but since their parents have money, they go wanahongana huko mlango ya nyuma, wanapewa hizo nafasi. Kuna hii narrative sasa imekuja pia Kenya bila connection huwezi pata kazi. Why? Because these people, kwa sababu wengine wanajua mimi hata nisipofanya hivi, babangu ako na pesa atanilipia, nitaingia kwa hiyo kazi. Let's just finish this narrative ya Kenya bila connection hauna kazi. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So guys, I'll insist. I really want to hear those legal questions. Keep them coming. So next speaker, we will have Mr. Gadongo.
Can I kindly respond to those before we go too far?
Okay, thank you. Yes, you can.
So that the next speakers can have, I believe my line colleague Theory is here too. He can be able to assist me where possible.
Yes, I'm trying to add Eric on the call. Yes.
Thank you. on the question of the national symbols and whether we can remove them from where they are supposed to be, guys, remember, if we have one constitution, we have symbols of national unity. That is the national flag, the national anthem, the coat of arms, the public seal. And remember, the photo of the president is also a symbol of national unity. Those are symbols of national unity. Whereas developing democracies, especially when there is agitation like the one we have in this country right now, they take it to the next step and, remove these national symbols. Remember, we have been on the street holding some of the symbols, including the national flag. So it's very important that even as we do this, because these offices, as long as the president is in office, he is a symbol of national unity. That is the Kenyan law. But again, you have discretion as a member of the public to now, bring down the photo if you feel that you do not want this person to actually be in your business premises. But remember, the law requires that the president is a symbol of national unity. On the second question of the bills in Parliament, I want to inform the members of the public that the Law Society of Kenya issues an advisory in form of memoranda to the National Assembly to every particular bill that is presented in Parliament. From time immemorial, the Law Society has always issued an advisory, including the recent bill on the finance bill. The Law Society issued a timely advisory that this bill does not reflect the interest and aspirations of the Kenyan people. As to whether the elected members of Parliament paid attention to that advisory memoranda, I don't know. But again, obviously, they do not pay attention. I think someone raised issues about public participation. The memoranda that we submit to Parliament and the general public, and remember, out in history, this finance bill received the highest number of memorandums from the members of the public on as to whether the bill should go through or not. But the public participation that was conducted did not, that committee did not actually factor in the views of the members of the public. And that's what we are basically saying. If you have representatives in Parliament who do not pay attention to the views that you give as the people donating the power to them to sit in those positions, then they do not represent your interests. And I believe previously the former Chief Justice advised the President of the Republic of Kenya during that time, the former President of the Republic of Kenya, to actually dissolve Parliament for several other reasons, including the question of representation in terms of balance. That decision by the Supreme Court has not been complied to date. So you have a house of individuals, a house of representatives that does not listen at all to the views of the public. On the question of the Auditor General reports, I can guarantee you today, if you go to the Auditor General's website right now, you will get to know whichever county you come from, you will find out whether the Auditor General gave an adverse report or a fair report, whichever that the Auditor General gave in your respective counties. You have a duty as a citizen from that county. If an adverse report is issued by the Auditor General, it's an adverse opinion that monies that were allocated to that county were not utilized properly. You have a duty, individually or collectively, to pursue your representatives. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Manuel.
Yes. You have a duty to follow up with your respective counties and ask questions and even institute proceedings for removal of those officers from office on the basis of the Auditor General's report. I can guarantee you, if there is an office that works day and night to ensure that the Kenyans are informed about the usage of their resources, is the Auditor General. Go to their website right now. You will find out that they have reports from counties, they have reports from ministries, they have reports from parastatals, they have reports for every public entity, including universities, as to how they use their money. And they issue this report every year. Every financial year, there's a report from the Auditor General on the usage of the resources. And it's very important that you follow up on those reports, read them, and then follow the constitutional process to institute proceedings to impeach these individuals on the basis of improper usage of the resources that have been allocated to your respective counties. And this includes to the national government, because the Auditor General audits all public entities that are supplied with public resources. Article 229, and I think you guys know that the Law Society rejected the appointment of Faith Odhiambo, the president of the Law Society, to represent to join the committee created through a presidential executive order to audit the public debt. And we communicated our position as the LSK that the directive to create an amorphous body in form of a task force is unconstitutional, because the Article 229(4) gives the Auditor General, the Office of the Auditor General, those powers to audit. And this is where the problem starts. The Auditor General is paid from the public coffers. Why would you create an extra constitutional body to audit the public debt, yet constitutionally, under Article 229(4), we have a government office that has absolute powers to audit every government office, including the office of the president, and the expenditures and how they spend the money. And so that is why, as the Law Society said, we cannot participate in an extra constitutional body, number one. Number two, we cannot allow an extra constitutional body take away powers of the Auditor General to audit the public debt. The President has supreme powers to direct the Auditor General, because he serves under his government, to actually audit the public debt. And remember, these people have capacity, they have resources, they have access. Where is the task force going to get access? Where is the president of the Law Society of Kenya going to get access to government accounts, government expenditures? Yet we have specialized, paid public officers working under the office of the OAG to actually check on the expenditure of the members of the public. And that is important, because if the president was honest in addressing the question of corruption and the public debt, then he has facilities within his disposal, because the Constitution of Kenya provided for proper audits. It provided for that office, which is an independent office, to actually go through the public expenditure and give reports periodically as to how that money is spent. Let me go to the court order issue. And someone alleged that the court orders are not properly adhered to. And there's the question of the use of live bullets. I reiterate my earlier position that we have instituted proceedings against the individual officers. Previously, as a Law Society, we used to institute cases against the offices, that is the Office of the Inspector General Police, the officer commanding station of these particular police officers, we have exited that tradition. We are actually instituting proceedings against individual names. And that's why I said, as the Law Society of Kenya, we have cases in court against the former Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Interior in his personal capacity. We have proceedings in court against the former Inspector General of Police in court. We have proceedings against the Director of the National Intelligence Service and the respective individuals in their respective names to answer to violations of constitutional rights and constitutional and fundamental rights. And I think I had already answered that question previously. There is a question on the EACC, the small fish against the big fish. We are aware that indeed the EACC has failed Kenyans, being an independent office, to actually investigate crimes against the usage of public resources and corruption within the public service. The Law Society has been on record calling out the Director of Public Prosecution from withdrawing cases that were filed on allegations of lack of evidence or disappearance of witnesses and issues like that. And I think as a Law Society, we'll continue following up on those cases. We have in the past and currently put a lot of pressure on the EACC to continue with the cases that are on the public domain in terms of the usage of public resources. And I think that is already documented. Someone asked a question on identity cards and the expiry date. I am happy to know that members of the public know, and this was done in secrecy. It's very important to know that this was done in secrecy. Do you know that today, if you lose your identity card, tomorrow, when you renew it, you will find that it has an expiry date? Do you also know that any other young person attaining the age of 18 years, upon application to have an identity card, they will have an identity card that has an expiry date of 10 years. Do you also know that indeed there are new regulations that you must pay for an identity card? Now you know. The Law Society has moved to court. As we speak, we are already in court on this issue. If you are a Kenyan citizen, and I'll make reference to numerous cases that have been filed in court on citizenship, if you are born in Kenya, a document will not give you citizenship. And the question we are asking in court as we speak, if I don't renew my ID card, do I stop being a Kenyan citizen? Do I stop enjoying the rights of being a Kenyan citizen? And these are very important questions, because if I was born in this country, as long as I'm alive, my right to citizenship is inherent. It can never be taken away. And under the new constitutional dispensation, I think most of you remember the Miguna case, where he refused to say that he had already taken citizenship away outside Kenya, and therefore he has to apply fresh. And the question in court was, can a Kenyan citizen apply to be a citizen in his own country? And the court has confirmed time without number that if you are born in this country, you can never lose your citizenship. In any case, the Kenyan constitution requires that you can have a dual citizenship, and therefore, even if you acquire citizenship elsewhere, outside this country, you still retain your place of birth. That is a fundamental right under the Constitution. It can never be taken away through renewal of citizenship. Even if it's a source of revenue to this country, I can guarantee you that after 10 years, Very few Kenyans will want to renew their identity because they know they were born here, they have been raised here, they live here. And so that is an inherent right under the Bill of Rights. And of course, the Law Society has already instituted proceedings in court against that. There was the last question about the money lost about the NHIF. I believe there is a decision that was issued today by the court suspending the decision to implement the new insurance fund. And I believe it's important that we digest the decision first before we address this issue. But I know for a fact our courts have been able to interpret the provisions of the law and protect your rights as the members of the public. We are waiting to see whether the government will be able to comply with the decision of the court as issued today. And lastly, on the question of the AG, and I think someone raised it earlier in the first set of the questions, it's our position that, of course, even though the former Attorney General who was fired yesterday created the office of the Attorney General to be vacant. And as you are aware, under the Constitution, Article 157 provides for that office, which is not supposed at any point to be left vacant. I'm hoping that the government and the government advisors will advise the president to appoint the new Attorney General as a matter of priority. Because remember, under the provisions of under the Constitution of Kenya, the Attorney General is the advisor of the government, and even though he's the advisor of the government, he also represents government in cases that are in court. I cannot count the number of cases that are in court that the Attorney General is actually representing government, and it's very important so that we don't have a constitutional moment where people will ask questions whether there's an Attorney General in office for anyone to appear in court on their behalf. It's important that the president appoints an Attorney General for purposes of ensuring that there's continuity within the court space. I believe I've answered all the questions that were asked by the presenters. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So, guys, there you have it. So, I don't know, the next speaker, I had interrupted someone who was about to proceed just before Wakili here got... so, Mr. Gadongo. Yes, Mr. Gadongo, sorry. You can proceed kindly.
Thank you, Cyprian, for the chance. Greetings to all of you. Okay.
Any speaker, if you're joining, kindly, guys, it would be very nice if you told us maybe where you're joining from, because we need to appreciate, the geographical spread and the unique, insights from different parts of the country. So that's all, bro. You can proceed.
All right. Mine is to my fellow citizens who've really put our country into a very good period of change, a very good times that will forever be remembered in history. And I'm believing that what we are pushing on is going to actually be a bigger thing than where we are right now. Number one, my condolences to the families that have lost their own people through this pursuit that we've put really hard, but unfortunately we lost some of our friends, and some of them are close relatives of us. It's a bit sad, but yeah, we stand with the families. What I want to say is we Kenyans, we need to still push this thing because we've seen fruits. At first, when we began, it looked like there were no immediate fruits. It looked like we were going to struggle. We were a bit frustrated by the government, threatened, and somehow it looked like we were not going to make any step. But surely, whenever you stand from and whenever you come from, or wherever you're listening from, you can realize that we've done a very huge impact to this country. And one thing that I've kept myself knowing and trying to derive from this is that we have a set of generations that believe that this country can only stay the way it is. And that is where the biggest problem is. And these generations, unfortunately, are our parents, the age of our parents, if I would say. There's a very huge group of of a very huge set of people who believe that this country can only be ruled by how it was ruled in 2000. Well, this is a very different case because we are definitely evolving as a nation, just like any other part of the world is evolving. And now the politics that have been used in the past from 90s cannot apply the same way they would apply then. Now, this is where we're having a problem of, and that is why this song of Gen Z should remain that we should be tribeless, we should be partyless, because those are the two main divisions of this country, having the parties and having the tribal card being pulled on each election. Now, mine is to everyone who is being involved in this protest. We maintain an aspect of togetherness that does not involve any party. And if any politician is trying to get affiliated to this movement, we should, like we've been doing, we should try to kick them out of the whole of this set, because they're going to ruin it. Already we've had very many attempts of people trying to politicize this, but thankfully it hasn't worked for them, because politicizing it and trying to shut all the way from the times of Githurai, all this has been tried to be politicized. Some say this one sent goons, this one did this one did this. But thank God to technology, we can see from the media, we can see the evidences from photos and videos that who exactly conducted a particular event. And much of it has fallen into the hands of the police. Thankful that IG has resigned, but that one hasn't even given us a win, because we wanted him held responsible for the whole thing that happened during that time. So, like the LSK representative said, I'm hoping that something will be done towards that, because in my feeling, I feel like it's just a new political card that is being pulled by William Ruto of wewe resign, wewe kaa kando, tuone kama watanyamaza. That is my feeling. I don't know how to authenticate that, but I feel that is exactly what has been pulled, and exactly the same thing that happened with the firing of the CSS yesterday. Is like, let's see if this card works. Alongside, maybe I saw Raila Odinga join the team, and I feel like this is something they went sat and built up such a thing, like, let's do this and see if they shut up. Because these people, and if you check my tweets, I mentioned somewhere that we do not need the leadership of William Ruto, we do not need the leadership of Raila Odinga, neither do we need that one of Uhuru Kenyatta, because these are people who are taking us to the politics of KANU, the politics of the 90s, and they think the solutions they used in the 90s can work for us in 2024. It's absolutely not workable. We are in a very new set of people and very new set of minds. We are not like our parents who would be told and hear. We actually don't listen. If you realize, we don't listen easily. We want to be heard more than we can listen, which I think is the perfect way of living. I mean, we need to live with choices. So these kind of cards they are trying to pull, we need to be very aware of what is happening, and we cannot just stop being in the streets just because they pull a certain card. We will go to the street until everything that we've listed, from list number 1 to wherever the list gets long to, we have to get them pushed, and they have to be done, because we, the people, like the constitution is scripting, we have the sovereign power to demand how our country needs to be ruled like. And so, my fellow countrymen, I'm asking that we get out on every scheduled day, on every said day, we come outside and exercise that particular part of our rights to push the government, and they will heed to the pressure like they have already done, and that heeding is what will achieve us fruits. And I think this is the same thing that those who fought for independence of this country, that is the same energy they had, like, we're being frustrated, but let's wake up tomorrow. We are losing some of us, But let's rise up tomorrow again, and we're going to deliver this country from wrong hands, from hands that are not right, from hands that believe that we are centered in rewarding a few individuals who in the government should say forever. And politics should change hands between several individuals in this country. In fact, we should now be looking forward to have many representatives of these people who are fighting. So we among those who are fighting for this revolution in 2027, we should be looking forward to such positions so that we can take the same revolutions into now the lawmaking panels like the Senate or the Parliament. Yes, and the other thing that I'm very unsure of, and I wish it would be highlighted by the LSK, is the process to get these MPs down, because these are the source, the main roots of the problem, especially from the CDF kitty. That is where the big elephant lies. And if we are able to get a prescription or rather scripting from the LSK of how we can handle this MP's issue, that would really do us big. I cannot imagine as we talk right now, there's an MP who has a case, not even a case, a public scene knowledge that he killed someone, and they're still tweeting among us and in Parliament and bragging and just dumping on us. I mean, it's painful. It's not even explainable to people. But then, for now, let's handle what we can handle, and then I believe LSK will come handy in guiding us to that. An appreciation to the LSK through the president. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for that short time. Thank you, Cyprian.
Okay.
Cyprian, can I give me a second? I respond to somebody, then I drop the mic.
Okay, Mike.
Yes. First of all, to our lawyer over here, Manuel Hosea. Just to add on what you said, the president being a symbol of national unity, and just like the flag and the national anthem. But this particular president is not unifying anybody. So hizo mapicha ziko kwa maduka zenyu na kwa your private businesses, just remove them. I have a business myself in Lavington. Na sijaiweka picha ya Ruto. Na hakuna mtu ashaniuliza. Na hakuna mtu ataniuliza. Take down all those pictures of this clown. Muzitoe zote. Now if it's a government office, that's different. But if it's your private business, there's no law requiring you to put up a symbol of national unity. Hii ni kitu ya ego. It's just started with Moi or Kenyatta, you know. It's just an ego thing. Kwa hivyo hizo vitu zote mtoe. And then to respond to the lady prior to you, I think Dina, I think that was her name. She was talking about, she raised something very important. She talked about before the CSs were put in office, they were taken to Parliament to be vetted, and they declared their wealth. But here's the problem. Come on, like I have the numbers here. Like Linturi, I think, was the richest with 1 billion. People like Mukomen declared he was worth 550 million. Ababu was 425 million. And Zachariah was like 80 million. But the problem with this, no kind of audit was done on these declarations. Mtu anakuja anasema I'm worth 1 billion. Lakini, hakuna scientist wameingia huko. They didn't turn over their bank accounts. They didn't turn over their title deeds. They didn't turn over their vehicle logbooks. So we can make sure that Linturi akisema I'm worth 1 billion, it's actually worth 1 billion. Juu tumeangalia accounts zake za KCB, NCBA, whatever he has put the money, even if it's offshore accounts, he has turned them over. We've looked at them, tumesema KCB akona 300 million. Akona gari mbili za 50 million. Nobody did that. Wanakuja tu wanasema, it's like me saying, mimi nikuje tu hapa niseme I'm worth 10 million. And then you take my word for it. Cyprian akuja aseme, me I'm worth 100,000 and or 50 million. And then we just take our word. So going forward, we must ensure anybody, because these seats have to be filled, whether we like it or not, these things are verified and forensically audited. Mtu ana turn over all his bank accounts, his vehicle logbooks, everything. Na kama hataki kufanya hivyo, then he cannot be appointed as a CS or a government representative. Juu sasa mimi naangalia hapa nasema Linturi 1 billion, alafu tukienda ku-audit sahi, now that they've been fired, tuone kona 2 billion, ama tuone kona 900 million. But nobody verified these sources of wealth. So going forward, si ati nani akuje tu hapo aseme Rebecca Miano akuje aseme I'm worth 300 million.
Okay, you owe 300 million. Okay, where are the title deeds? Where are the vehicle logbooks? We need them here, and the public needs to see the amounts to us to make sure these are the correct amounts. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. So I will, I don't know if Mr. Manwa, you feel like you can proceed to take a few more questions?
Yes, that is fine. I think we can take a few more.
Okay, I'm trying to add some more legal experts on the panel, though we are having some difficulty getting to reach Mr. Eric Theory. So, sir, if you're on the call, kindly accept the request to be a speaker on the panel as we proceed to the next contributor. So I will give the mic to Keegan. Keegan, you've been raising your arm for some time now. But before you proceed, guys, remember, once you take the mic, kindly, we would like to know, for those of you joining outside of Nairobi, what are the unique legal challenges you're facing, and what actions are being taken in your area. We want to understand the perspective of the movement throughout all regions, okay? Because the movement is very evenly spread throughout the country. So, as the speaker mentioned, by the way, a few moments earlier, there is need for support in protests across various counties. That one, I think I totally agree. By the drive. So the conversation for sure.
Good evening, Yakudi. Well, I'm not sure whether you will hear me because where I'm from, there's a heavy rain.
No problem.
Maybe you can pass the mic to someone else and then you'll get back to me later.
Okay, no problem. So, 3 gentlemen on the call. So I'm going to try a lady now. All the 3 gentlemen. I'll add Bella. So Bella, kindly share a few words. Tell us what you think about the movement. Tell us what you think about such citizens gatherings. Yeah. The mic, the space is yours. Bella, kindly you can proceed. You have the mic.
Hi.
Yes, hi to you.
Oh, so first of all, thank you for this platform, and Faith Odhiambo, receive your flowers. You're doing an amazing job as the LSK president. About the Ufungamano thing, that was a good forum, by the way. And the one thing nakumbuka, it's about the police, like vile wanaendanga training. Do they even know anything about the law? There's someone who asked that. Are they trained anything about the constitution? Like it was said, they perceive themselves as enemies of Raia, which is not right. That's why kuna so much police brutality. And kama hizi bodies zimekuwa retrieved leo, who will be accountable for them? CS Interior was sacked yesterday. Leo IG retire. Are they, now that the outside office watakuwa will they be prosecuted? Will they take the blame? Like, there's just a lot I add up. But anyway, the ufungamano thing was such a great forum, by the way. And iyo part ya polisi ndo bado no nilikuja to get those people, apart from being deep students, some whatever grade students, they really need to learn about your story constitution. And I remember tuliambiwa tusiweke picha za president kwa businesses zetu, but we can hang the flag and the constitution. Yes. So yeah, Ruto, and we don't need your photos. You are not a symbol of national unity. After all, the country that you're the president is not even united as per now. Well, okay, those were the things zenye nakumbuka sana na is only take note of. And yes, anaitwa Kivudha Kibwana. Oh, that poem was super amazing. Me nataka tu kujua about now that okay, nimekuwa overthink like why mbona hizo bodies zinakuwa discovered after the CS wamekuwa sacked jana. Is there kuna whistleblower or something? I hope there is. And will huyu interior, will Koome be prosecuted? Ama what will happen? Like according to the law, how will things go after? For me, I don't know much about the law. I'm still learning by the pole. So yeah. Anyway, thank you. I didn't have much to say. Thank you for the mic. You can drop me.
It's okay. So thank you for your remarks. You've raised some really important points. So we had today, yes, there was a discussion that now that Kenyans have totally lost confidence in the entire system. Not just the presidency, not just the executive, like parliament, judiciary. We've lost trust in all of these institutions. So it is safe to say that this person known as William Ruto, at this stage, most Kenyans, the feeling among most Kenyans is maybe this person does not represent, is no longer the face of the country, is no longer a unifying factor like a leader should be. So this is slowly becoming apparent. And so again, we had some panelists mention that, or rather some people ask if we can now then bring down these guys' photos from our businesses, from our offices, and instead put up the Kenyan Constitution, put up the Kenyan flag, put up other symbols that signify our Kenyanism, and get rid of all these portraits. So yes, that question was raised to the panel, and I'm not sure if Madam President will be able to join the call right now, but it was confirmed. Yes, you actually can replace it and put up the Kenyan Constitution or any other symbol of Kenyan unity. So just to pick up from where Bella left, yes, that was discussed. So discussions were varied on many aspects. And again, not all of us understand the law very well. So we need much more engagements like this. So I agree with you, Bella. We will try and push for many more citizens' assemblies because we get them to understand our laws better. We get to understand our country's law better and how we can react now and use this knowledge as citizens, because we have to agree a revolution, when we are well-informed, a well-informed revolution is unstoppable. So thank you, Bella, for your thoughts. I will progress to the next speaker. So Mr. Okay, what's this guy's name? So Nick, I will add you as a speaker. You can kindly proceed. And remember, guys, those sending requests, naona watu wa Nairobi wengi sana hapa, some followers that I recognize. Guys, let's try and get these from other parts of the country as well. I really want to know what they think about this movement. I really want to know what they think at this stage, what should be the next steps to take. So, Nick, you can take the mic.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Nick,
Hey,
we
yes,
can
Nick.
hear you.
Yes, first I want to send a sincere condolence to the comrades that we lost a few weeks ago. Secondly, I want to thank Madam Faith. Whatever you are doing, sincerely, so far it is one of the best virtues that we have seen in that office. The people who have been there, I think they haven't advocated for anything big other than having a cup of coffee at the State House. And Madam, with due respect, we want to ask you to continue with that. Now, to my first point, my main concern, like my anger keep on really adding up with these several bodies that are now coming up. It means that that incident that had happened in Guidurai, it was real, and these people were trying to downwater this thing. So you can imagine how many people who are yet whose bodies are yet to be recovered. It means that it's likely to be beyond expectation, like as people are anticipated. Now, the next thing I would want to ask Madam Faith. I think now that those looters have been evacuated from those offices, is it possible that now, through this movement, we could begin the process of prosecuting these people? Because at the time when they were, they appeared at the parliament before they occupied those offices, some of them, the way they were, the amount of wealth they had accumulated, sincerely, it doesn't vis-a-vis whatever they could be possessing right now. And I think that with this movement, we are capable to prosecute these people. If at all there is any legal fee that is going to be required, I think we are in a position to make that contribution so that we get full ownership of everything that these people might have gotten away with. Then the third thing, I think through this movement we have proved that the voice, we are the voice, and we are the generation that means well. Besides the bad decisions that people who have been there before made on our behalf. So one thing that is going to be very purposeful as time gets by is that we ensure that we remain united and we don't lose focus with unnecessary things that might come along the way. We know there are several people here who are still living on check or on the check of other people. They are being bought to try to spread some narrative in order to try to disrupt our mind. Our vision over here is still clear. And I don't think why someone should let their anger go just because those CSS were sent home yesterday. That one was due, and there is no favor Ruto did at all. That entire team was very incompetent by virtue. You can imagine someone like David Chirchir. Someone has been fired 2 times. It means that at the time these people were getting into the office, most of them were political awardees because of the campaign that they had done when that regime was coming into the office. And they did not qualify at all because they do not have the well-being of the citizen. And for the people who should be coming next, it should come. We need people who are qualified for this position. And one thing that we must ensure as people who belong, who are members of this movement, that we do not have politicians in those offices. From that parade we saw last week, that was early this week, that was arraigned. Those are political reject that most of them right now, their eyes are eyeing those positions as an awardee. You look at that list we saw over there, Joho, and we know some of the things that these people are planning. People like Junet, these are the faces that are likely to be brought over there. So it means that the circle is just going to remain the same. Whatever they had done before, there is nothing new that these people are bringing on board. Then we won't really wish to have a recycle of these people that have been rejected by citizens, being rewarded, being awarded to hold the offices. It means that they are going to serve the interest of one individual, not the interest of people. We have several people. Actually, Kenya has a lot of brain. It's like nearly everyone is qualified in Kenya. Besides those politicians, because you look some of their CV sincerely, someone's like mythical, is it mythical Inturi? You look at the profile of that guy and you look at the docket that he was hosting, you come now to realize why we had to end up with those fake or rather soil as fertilizers. And besides that, these people have got scandals. So I think we should not really lose focus at all. And this game is just getting started. As the time gets by, I think we should align our objectives very, very well. We want, now that Koome is gone, any of those people who are in security who foresaw these things must be prosecuted. Just like the other day, the other member of council was telling us that they are in the process of prosecuting those security personnel who are on the front line when the likes of the late baby Pendo were getting killed. I think this is what we should do to the likes of Jaco, to that Koome, Inspector General of Police, the likes of Kindiki, and that guy who is, I think, the commander or something of sort, or in Nairobi, that commander who is in Nairobi in charge of something of sort. Those people should be prosecuted so that they see, they come to realize that even though they receive the orders, when the time comes, they will be prosecuted as individual and they'll face the rule of law. In Kenya, we are governed by a constitution, regardless of the regardless of individual political affiliation. No one is allowed to take an individual life. I think people portrayed in the recent functions that we had at Uhuru Garden. It was very peaceful. It means that these politicians are the one who are motivating or rather outsourcing looters to come and try water down the effort of that people who mean well during the protest. They come and they exaggerate everything. Once you bring looters inside, once they outsource those looters, they come and join people, then their intention is to destroy everything during this process. So these individuals are very identifiable. And one thing that we need to understand that this movement has a lot of people. We got some of the high intel in this movement. They are just keeping quiet, and it is not that they are against this thing, because it reaches a time that you do not now worship an individual. You value the interest that you have for your country. We have only one Kenya, regardless of the places that we are. Kenya is our motherland. So in any capacity that you are in a position, we are going to spend whatever we can afford to regard our rights and to prevent our country from falling into bad hands. And one thing you must realize, an individual, Ruto has developed cold feet. Huyo jamaa anakaa ameshindwa, and he has no option. So he's just trying to play cards to see. And we should let the temperature boiling at its optimum point. There is no going back at all. There is no favor this guy has done as yet. If you see that individual bana mwenye aliwa juzi pale mbele ya parliament, like sincerely, you just do away with someone life that way, as if we were going to, as if people were going to, there is something that people could drop at parliament. That is just a building. Since
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Not infrastructure that can be repaired by our taxpayers. I beg to stop over there, but I want to let you know that we are in this and we are going to keep on pushing. Once we are done with this, we are going to begin the next process. Thank you so much for the time. I beg
Okay,
that you
okay,
can
thank you.
drop me, please, so that I allow others to come in.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for interrupting you, Nick. I understand everyone right now is very passionate about the movement. We all have so many things we want to get off our chests. We have so many things we want to tell these people, establishment. So thank you very much for your remarks. You didn't mention where you joined the broadcast from, because I'm also trying to get a footprint here of like who are the people in this conversation.
Okay, I'm joining this conversation from Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you, sir. So you are our patriots in the diaspora. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. So, before I invite the next speaker, I see most of you are still streaming into the broadcast. So basically, the purpose for this space, again, you allow me to slightly repeat it for the guys who just joined. So we are here on this space hosted by the esteemed Law Society of Kenya President, Madam Faith Odhiambo. The purpose of this Twitter space, or rather these X spaces, is to take over from, or rather move on from the conversation we've just had here today at Ufungamano House. So there are very many questions right now. Kenyans want to know what will happen to the people who are responsible for these injustices meted against these innocent victims. What will happen to the Inspector General now that he's resigned? Will he get prosecuted? What happens to the cabinet secretaries who resigned? Do they get prosecuted? What happens to all the millions of shillings that have been looting and stashing in foreign accounts? What happens? There must be some form of accountability, because yes, we will appreciate the fact that the cabinet is dissolved. Yes, we will appreciate the fact that some of these outright evil men who are responsible for these killings. We saw today bodies being discovered in Kware. I do not want to digress into that right now, but what happens? There must be some form of accountability, all right? So what are your thoughts on the cabinet dissolution? How will this change the approach to and how will it affect the ongoing investigations? Will justice be found? So many things going on in terms of governance in our country right now. So that is the purpose of this space. And this Friday, we had a chance to talk to the families, to talk to the victims themselves. So if you missed out on that discussion, we had been live on Twitter the entire day. We had very interesting panels full of professionals from all sectors. So I will now continue to the next speaker. So the conversation goes on. Even after we were done at Ufungamano House, now we are now here online where the movement actually started, because we believe this is the home of the movement. Any other assembly that we will hold, the movement must start from here. So my next speaker will be Joan. So Joan, you can kindly proceed. Tell us your thoughts on the resignations. Tell us your thoughts on the movement. What do you think about these perpetrators of the crimes that we saw, these perpetrators of police brutality? What should happen to them? What should be the next step in terms of accountability for these people now that it appears things are slowly starting to move? So yes, Joan, you can proceed kindly.
Thank you so much, Cyprian, for this opportunity, and also for Madam Faith. She has given herself relentlessly and passionately. History will remember her for that. So first of all, my condolences to all the families that have lost their loved ones. Sadly, again, they keep annoying us. There are so many bodies that have been found, and with the resignation of the police IG Koome, this is the first step, but there should, like you have mentioned, Cyprian, there should be accountability. The cabinet secretaries that went home yesterday, they should not go back home and sit pretty. We want to see people being charged, because we have seen monies being embezzled in these ministries, and we are calling for a reset for this nation. The president has been given a clean slate to restart and reset. We do not want to see political cronies. It is time for Kenya to have professionals in these offices, not people who are just because they're politicians. A politician who is very poor in governance has no patriotism in them. Look what they have done for the last 2 years. There is a program, let me just mention that they had started, and I believe that would have solved majority of the problems that we have now. But like they have shown us, selfish interests took over. There was a program that was called Kites. I could see how they presented this to us. If that is how they were supposed to do it, we would be having 47 manufacturing industries in Kenya right now. You can imagine how many intertrade would be happening between counties, how much that would have empowered Kenyans economically. But again, self-interest from these people. So we want to see more people who have taken us down to this hole go home, and not go home and sit pretty. We want to see people charged. And the president one time said it was treasonous. Those who are the real treasonous, the people who took this country to this hole. And it should not start even not only now. Anyone who has held a position in power, whether you have been a PS, a CEO, anyone who has held a position in the past, they should be told that this nation is bigger than them. Kenyans pay taxes to work for them. Kenyans do not pay taxes to work for a few. So our country is wealthy. Our country is wealthy in terms of resources, natural resources. It has great mines. We cannot continue being poor. We cannot continue having people who cannot afford basic education because of a few people. I like that our movement must continue. We must not relent, because the small wins that we are seeing now is because we started speaking, even when some of us are still getting small threats here and there. One time I spoke and my video went viral. I was accused of so many things. And we must continue, because we want a country where we will leave the future generations in a country where they are free, in a country where resources work for them, in a country where taxes work for them. Thank you so much, Cyprian. And going forward, we want to see anyone who has been culpable, anyone who has broken law, any police that killed innocent Kenyans, innocent youth, people who went to the street with a phone. We want to see them charged. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and God bless Kenya.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne, for your... with what you said. There must be accountability heading forward. So before I proceed to the next speaker, guys, again, welcome to this space. We are here to discuss the events that have happened since the June 25th, since what was arguably the greatest Kenyan protest we ever got to see with our eyes. So I see the guys are joining the conversation, and I'd love to hear from, I don't know, do we have any legal experts in here or members of the civil society? We would like to hear their opinions. How do you see the changes affecting the legal landscape and the justice system in Kenya? So like we've heard here in this space, everyone wants accountability. I think that's the message. I think the message all across the country now is, yes, these people are being sacked. Yes, these people are resigning. Yes, cabinet is being dissolved. But are we really going to sit back and sit pretty? No, we cannot. We have to keep pushing, because you can see the little pressure that we put the last time, it's kind of bearing fruit. So guys, we'll allow the next speaker. Mr. James, you can proceed.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, good afternoon, James.
Cyprian, is Faith in this space right now? Ama ako busy kidogo. I have some questions to her.
Okay,
Madam
Faith, President is a little engaged at the moment, but she is following the discussion. She cannot join us right now, but she's listening to the discussion. She's part of the discussion, so you can go ahead and fire your questions.
Okay, yeah. Quite nice. First of all, I would like to thank you, Cyprian, for giving me this opportunity to speak to Kenyans. Same as Faith. I have seen your work. actually through friends and through your accounts, same as what Faith has been doing. Immediately she became the president of LSK and before that. So I am very proud today to actually be called a Kenyan because we've been fighting for this country for a long time. Some of us are not old enough, but I started being active in politics as far back as 2011, while still in high school. I think it was a push ahead. But back then, from 2011 to 2018, around there, when you were active in politics and you were young, people would over criticize you. Wanakwambia you should heal. Wanakwambia you over focusing on corruption and tribalism in the government, as if it's normal. Then the big conversation was, hata wewe ukikuwa MP or president, you would still be a thief like the rest. So clap for them. When your time comes, you will be as corrupt and tribal as them. Then those conversations usually act me because it didn't make sense that we were clapping for corrupt and tribal folks and normalizing such bad manners in governance. I am happy that in 2024, we've been able to awake politically an entire generation and the entire country, and that we're pushing for reforms, we're pushing for accountability, we are against impunity, we are against corruption, we are against tribalism, and no one has been left behind. Frankly, I think I thought that it would take more than 50 years from today to achieve this. But it appears we got independence sooner because this is the third liberation of this country. I mean, the first liberation was in the 60s for independence. The second liberation, the liberation of the 90s. Then we are living through the third liberation. I mean, what a time to be a Kenyan. I think going forward, Cyprian and all listeners here, I think we need to have a clear plan on how to push Ruto and to push the government possibly home. Because to be honest, Ruto was not supposed to be president in the first place. I mean, we gave the wrong guy that seat. I didn't vote for him, but there are millions of Kenyans who voted for him. Whether he won rightfully or rigged himself in, he still became the president, backed up by millions of Kenyans who voted for him. But then I think we were, most of the Kenyans who voted for Ruto were worshipping the kind of wrong politics that we have in this country and we have had for a long time. I mean, almost everyone knew the scandals Ruto was involved in. The land scandals, pilferage of public funds, the jet scandal, and so many scandals. They also knew about his corrupt ways. They knew about his hypocritical ways in church. They also knew about his tribalism aspect, but they still voted for him in, following the old style of politics. So I'm glad that we're now changing that. But I'm just saying we do not have to wait till 2027 to remove this guy from office, because he's actually wasting our time. I mean, there are two ways enshrined in the Constitution in which we can remove a president from power, and that is what I needed clarification from Faith and any other lawyers here. So the first way to remove a president from office is through Article 144, that is removing a president on the grounds of incapacity. So basically, an MP brings a motion in Parliament. Then if the motion is ratified by 2/3 of Parliament, I think the proceedings are forwarded to the Chief Justice, who appoints a tribunal that has 3 people, one person representing the Law Society of Kenya, the other representing, I think, the from the school of, I mean, from the medicine sector, maybe from KMPDU. Then one more person from, I think, the judiciary. Then the three-person tribunal decides on if the president is incapacitated, either physically or mentally, to discharge his duties as president. And the second grounds on which to remove a president from power constitutionally is through an impeachment, which would not be that easy considering that this guy has already pocketed the National Assembly and the Senate. So an MP has to move a motion to Parliament that has to be ratified by a third of the members of Parliament. Then the members of Parliament debate the motion. Then if the motion is passed by two thirds of Parliament, that motion is forwarded to Senate. That impeachment is forwarded to Senate in 7 days. Then the Senate Speaker goes through the proceedings and whatever has been tabled to him from the National Assembly. Then they table it to Senate. Senate appoints a committee that looks into the issue and looks into the issues that were raised. Among them, gross misconduct, the president having committed a crime under Kenyan law or international law. Then thirdly, the president having violated the Constitution of Kenya. Those are the main three things that would warrant an impeachment of a president. So if the Senate committee finds the president guilty on one of the three, or two or three, or all three of them, the Senate committee brings that report to Senate. Then Senate goes on to vote for the impeachment. If 2/3 of Senate ratify the impeachment, then the president is impeached forthwith. The only other way that is not, I don't think it's written in the Constitution, is whatever we are currently doing, pushing the president to resign through protests and through demonstrations. Well, you all remember we were supposed to, well, there was a push to occupy State House. Let me put it that way. Because our protest and our movement does not have a leader. We all know that. But we have influencers and celebrities who've been quite vocal towards pushing this agenda. So before the immediately after the Occupy Parliament happened, I think people were more emboldened to feel like it's possible to occupy State House now that people have already occupied Parliament, something that has never happened in the history of this country. So some influencers pushed for the hashtag Occupy State House. That was before Caliph Cairo and Anifa did their videos and tweeted na akina Kimuzi, but mostly Cairo and Anifa, trying to dissuade people from storming State House, citing several reasons, among them the fact that State House is a protected area. Then they started talking about the possibility of treason and so on and so on. But then I wonder, when we pushed to occupy Parliament and people actually occupied Parliament, did they forget that Parliament was still a protected area? Anyway, so they dissuaded people lost that spirit, the courage disappeared. I mean, it's just vaporized. Possibly if Cairo and Anifa and several others had not tweeted and released videos about the same, possibly we would have occupied State House. But then I think that would be a wrong move after reflecting about it. Because as you know, Cyprian, and everyone who is listening here, we do not have an IEBC in place. I mean, the current IEBC is not properly constituted. So we would have pushed the country to a power vacuum. Because if we would have ousted Ruto from power through protest without a proper IEBC, then we would not be in a position to hold elections, either by elections or general elections. So I'm proposing that, I understand we should go against the cabinet secretaries who've been fired. We should go against MPs who are rogue and governors and so on. But I think, Cyprian, as we push for that, we should not forget that we should push more for the IEBC than we push for any other thing, because that is what is holding us back. If we had the IEBC in place, we would already have recalled those MPs who had voted yes for the finance bill. Because it means if we hadn't hit the streets, these guys would have been comfortable voting yes for a punitive tax bill. I mean, they were comfortable with it. So I think if we push for an hashtag that pushes for a reconstitution of the IEBC, basically pushing the president and all political stakeholders in this country to come together and to listen to us, to push for an IEBC and for its constitution. Because the president put up a selection panel as early as last year, February 2023. We already have an IBC selection panel in place, but it has never proceeded with actually appointing commissioners. Sababu ya siasa ya kuvurutana hapa na pale. Raila wakes up today and is like, okay, I'm not comfortable with that selection panel. Kalonzo wakes up the next day, or Eugene or Jeremiah Kioni or someone, and decides, well, I'm going to frustrate the president because I feel the selection panel was biasly constituted, and so on. Siasa ya kuvurutana, we've never had the IBC in place. It is quite unfair to people who've lost their MPs and to constituents in constituencies zenye kumekuwa na election malpractices. They do not have an MP in place. So they are actually suffering as citizens.
They have not held elections in 2 years. James, sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. Yes. So
quite unfortunate. But yes.
So just to wind up, James, give us your final thoughts as we proceed to the next speaker, because the list is long. The guys are killing me. Let's kindly wind up.
I understand, Cyprian. So I'm saying, as the top influencers, wewe Cyprian, Akina Kimuzi, Akina Anifa, Cairo, we can all come together to one hashtag and push for a reconstitution of the IBC. As we push for to hold to account the CSS who've been fired, we should push for one hashtag that pushes for the reconstitution of the IBC. That way we can recall MPs. That way we can even recall the president and impeach him, because at a power vacuum, because the president is supposed to confirm the appointed commissioners. I mean, Parliament is supposed to confirm the appointed commissioners, and the president is supposed to assent to the commissioners. So if we occupied State House to draw a president without an IBC, we would go to a situation of anarchy. So that is my honest opinion.
Thank you. So you've raised some very interesting questions. I'm sure that's why when we began, I tried to invite some legal experts. I don't know if you're a legal expert and you're in this space. As you can see today, we, the citizens, need lots of answers from you guys, because we are trying to deliberate on the best, not just the way forward, but the best way forward, which for one, I mean, guys, we have to agree. We do not want any more of these killings. I mean, we've lost our loved ones. We've seen so much brutality. We do not want any of these things happening. But the movement must go on. So what's the best way to keep the movement alive? So as I introduce the next speaker, I will urge, if you're a legal expert, DM me, send me a DM, text me on the side. I would really want you guys
want to thank Faith and Manwa for the opportunity. My questions are brief, and this follows the conduct of the immediate former CSS, especially the CS of Education. We saw him issuing employment letters of teachers on political rallies. And my question is there a way in which we can undo such? Because I think that act denied some most deserving Kenyans an opportunity for employment. Answer my second question. I think this is a question that has been asked severally in different platforms, but I'll ask in a brief. So my question is, how can we adjust the numbers in terms of salaries to state officers? I think we are paying more than we can manage, because I think their salaries among the highest compared to different countries in Africa and also the rest of the world. And also in terms of numbers, this thing of over-representation, I think there was a speaker before the last space fell. There was a speaker who was talking about was talking about the same in terms of numbers. So how can we? And also my that question: what constitutional changes can we make so that we make the society or running of our governance a bit fair? For instance, how can we change the constitution to make, for instance, the recalling of an MP easier? You see, I think those who came up with the constitution made it difficult for us to recall our MPs. So those are my few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Greatness, are you there?
I want to talk to you. Hello? Hey.
Kindly proceed. Kindly proceed.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, proceed kindly.
Okay, my question is, my name is James. I'm listening from Tengera. My question is, okay, most of my question nimesikia wase wamejibu mingi, but mine ilikuwa kwa MPs. Huyo mse mwenye amesema about kumake easier mambo ya MP kulikoriwa. I guess that kuna venye tunaelezewa about that more. Because most of us huku chini tunateseka na mambo mingi sana actually. For example, mimi nikitengera mimi observe vitu sana. And nime notice kuna askari kadhaa huku Kitengera kuna okay, most of us tumechanganyika, Masai, Wakamba, Wakikuyu. But ukiweka biashara yako Kitengera lazima uchote kitu kidogo kwa polisi. OCS wameanziwa na OCS, wameanziwa from there too. Which means corruption ndio inatumiza sisi wote. Pale juu akiwajibika hadi huku chini hawa wazee wataacha hii maneno ya kufongo ama kuchukua anything huku chini. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a last question so that we can take those responses. But can we have DKT? Ibros, DKT? DKT, can you hear me? If he's not there, Mr. Buni. Mr. Buni, can you hear me? Okay, guys, before we take the next set of questions, let me just respond to some of the few questions. I want to first make a declaration. We have on board Council Member Teresia Wavinya. We have the Advocate Zaka Lakonya on board. And I think we have several advocates on board who can be able to respond to the several questions that have been raised by the members of the public. I will respond to the few questions so that we don't have numerous questions to respond to before we address the ones that have been raised. I think someone raised questions with regard to the First Lady. I think based on the President's earlier declarative, the First Lady offices and allocations in terms of finances was scrapped off. It's interesting to note that indeed even county governments have allocated resources for the First Lady. It's important to note, and as a law society, we have to indicate that indeed these offices are unconstitutional. They're not provided in the Constitution. You guys, if you go through the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there is nowhere the First Lady has been mentioned, or the Second Lady for that matter, because we have the President and the Deputy President, and in county governments, we have the Governor and the Deputy Governor. We have no business as members of the public with the First Ladies and the wives of members of public. That is the President, the Deputy President, the county government, that is the governors and the deputy governors and their spouses, and even the National Assembly. And I know for a fact some of the members of parliament might think that their wives are first ladies within the constituencies. It's important to note that these offices are not known under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And therefore, it's important that we, as citizens, oppose. And I applaud the step by the President of the Republic of Kenya saying that the allocations to those offices have already been vacated. To that extent, I believe even county governments that are making allocations to those offices, if you come from those respective counties, we had an intense discussion about county governments, because under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, there are two levels of government. There's the national government and the county government, the devolved government. And the steps that we have made, including culminating into the dismissal of the cabinet secretaries, culminating into the dismissal of the attorney general, culminating into the subsequent actions that will be taken and dismissal of the actually rejection of the bill before the National Assembly, we have to be very candid to the lowest level of governments, and that is the county government, the MCAs, who are at the local level. If your county alleges to have intends to allocate resources to the first woman in that county, then it's unconstitutional, and you have to take necessary steps. And it's at this stage that we need to actually take caution. Remember, you are the electorate. You are the ones donating your right to individuals to represent that right, both at the county level, at the National Assembly level through the members of parliament, at the women rep level. And therefore, you have a right to appear before the county assembly, before the members of the county assembly, those are the MCAs, and implore upon them not to pass a budget that makes allocation to a woman representative. It's very important for you to know that whereas you're fighting for your rights at the national level, at the national government, the county level is the lowest unit. And the county is split into sub-counties where you have representatives of the members of the county assembly, who we call popularly as MCAs. You have to hold the MCAs accountable. Your county representative from where you come from must ensure they agitate the your interests, and the interest of your kin and the members within that sub-county at the county assembly. They are a reflection of what we have in the National Assembly in Nairobi, where we call it parliament. And so your parliament at the local level is your MCAs. And I think Cyprian earlier mentioned that we need to know who is representing who from the regions, so that we don't assume that we have representation across the region. And I think I've addressed that question about the first lady and the first woman as it is in the county government level. You have to oppose any proposal. And again, as we indicated earlier, if you go to the Auditor General's website, you will find out qualified or unqualified opinions, reports of the allocations given to those counties. And if those reports are adverse, you have a duty to challenge that county government, to ask for the removal of your governor, to actually ask for the removal of your MCA for misrepresenting your interests and going forward and actually agitating for their personal interests. And again, you have a duty to report that to the Law Society of Kenya, because I think as the Public Interest Litigation Committee of the Law of Kenya will take up any matter from any count within the boundaries of this republic and challenge the same within our courts if any officer, any public officer has violated the provisions of the Constitution of Kenya. Let me go to the second question of abduction, and I think Zach, being a senior member of the legal profession, you have raised several issues about the Githurai bodies. I think it's a matter of general public that indeed there are several bodies that have been found at Githurai on a dump site. This tells you that we have not really held our governments accountable with regards to the right to life. This is a constitutional right. When members of the public express their rights to demonstrate, they do not, and in any event, if they violate any right outside their Bill of Rights, government agencies have a right to institute proceedings. But there is no individual, including the President of the Republic of Kenya, who has a right to take away the right to life. Nobody is above the law. We are all above the law, including the individuals we elect into public office. And I think that is very important because it's very difficult for us to collect evidence and information as to those violations. But within your space, whether you are in Nairobi or any county within the Republic of Kenya, you have to ensure that you collect substantive evidence on these violations, because the Constitution provides for the Bill of Rights. If you went to the street to demonstrate and you did not affect any other third party, you did not throw stones into stalls of other people, you did not loot any other person's shop, you did not assault any other person exercising their rights, then you have a duty. You have a constitutional duty to exercise your right peacefully. And so those violations that emanate from exercising your rights, you must exercise them. And I think regardless of where you come from, the judiciary within the Republic of Kenya has high courts across the country. The last 10 years, we have had the benefit of having high courts in over 25. It's approaching 30 counties. And in any high court within the Republic of Kenya, you have a right to allege violation of your individual rights. If you are abducted, if you are injured, if you are held beyond the constitutional requirement of 24 hours, and any other violation, including intimidation, frustration, and threats and all that, the High Court has inherent powers, inherent jurisdiction to hear and determine questions of abuse of any violations under the Bill of Rights. And let me go to the other question. Can we hold can we hold account the new cabinet that is being set up by the president? Can we hold them account? Let me first say that you guys elected your members of parliament. You gave a delegated right. You delegated your right to members of parliament to represent you in parliament and make decisions on your behalf. If, and I know for a fact the president will present to the National Assembly the new team that will be in cabinet. Remember, there is a minimum under the Constitution of 14 There's a maximum of 22 under the Constitution. If the president chooses to appoint 22 or appoint 14, he has that prerogative. But whoever he chooses to sit as a cabinet secretary, you as members of the public, you have a duty. And I need to reiterate the position that the president of the Law Society, Faith Odhiambo, reiterated earlier, that if you are a member of the public, you have a right to instruct your member of parliament in writing. You don't need to text them or anything. Write. Most of you are learned. You can write to your member of parliament, make that letter public and tell them that we are opposed to you as agreeing to have this cabinet secretary be appointed for this position. And all those positions we have in office, if all of us would write to our members of parliament and tell them that we are opposed to this position that you are taking, and it's documented, it's very easy for some of us at the Law Society, based on the information you have actually given to your member of parliament, and based on the vote that they took, to either ask them to vacate office, or number two, ask the court to consider the opinions of the members within that constituency and declare that they did not represent the position of the members within that constituency. Again, the essence of public participation, there's a decision from the Supreme Court which has said that public participation should not be a process. You remember Justice David Maraga, the former Chief Justice, said that the issue of representation, the issue of government proceeding, it's not an event. It's a process. You have to pay attention to what is happening in government, to what is happening in parliament. As members of the respective national assemblies where you come from, where you vote, you have to ensure that your member of parliament follows the process of law and they don't make decisions. Earlier we said that parliament is the biggest letdown in the justice system and also in the legislative process, and they have failed to actually hold government accountable in terms of oversight. And so you have to pay attention to how your member of parliament voted, what informed that vote. Was it personal, or was it involving the views collected from the public? And as the Supreme Court said, that the process of public participation should not just be a process, because you cannot just report to parliament that we listen to members of the public. You have to also demonstrate that we listened and we incorporated their views in our final reports. And these are the views. So that when the Law Society challenges these decisions in court, they will tell the court, look, these were the views of the members of the public, and they are documented. This is what they said. But this member of parliament refused to comply and proceeded to State House to receive instruction as to how they will vote on this bill. And as I indicated earlier, the members of parliament of the National Assembly are our biggest enemies in terms of execution of legislation and oversight question. There's a question that has been raised on the question of recall of MPs. I want you guys to read the Constitution. Under Article 97 and 98, the right to recall, there's a process. There's a process of collecting signatures. There's a process of that is anchored under the law. Kindly read those provisions, because the Constitution is a very short document. You can be able to grasp those facts and be able to institute proceedings as an individual to recall your member of parliament. Can we initiate the prosecution of cabinet secretaries who have been incompetent and who have misused public resources, yes, you have a right individually to institute proceedings against any cabinet secretary, both former and even current. And again, considering that the president has already asked the members of the public to, has already fired his cabinet, it means that the 21 cabinet secretaries will be, the names will be presented before Parliament for vetting. Once the vetting goes through, there will be a process of public participation, collecting views from the members of the public. If he elects the same individuals who have cases in court, remember Chapter 6 of the Constitution has not died, because the Constitution is clear as to whether, as on the issues of accountability, transparency, on the issues of individuals, whether they have been involved in cases in court, corruption cases, whether they have a clean record and stuff like that. So you have to look at the individual being nominated to Parliament. And you have a right to instruct your member of Parliament. And even before you instruct your member of Parliament, you have a right to do a memoranda in your name to the National Assembly, asking them that I reject this nominee on the following grounds. He has been involved in criminal cases. He is a murderer. He or she has participated in corruption cases. So that if those views are not considered, then it's very easy for you, after the decision of Parliament has been made, whether they approve that individual nominee or not, you can pursue that process in court and indicate that indeed this person does not meet the constitutional provisions of being appointed to a substantive public office, because they don't meet the procedural and constitutional requirements for appointment to public office. Those procedural and constitutional requirements are actually under our Constitution and are actually under Chapter 6 and Article 10. If you look at those articles, they provide for the integrity process for individuals who actually are supposed to actually be appointed to public office. Let me go back to, I think, the last question that Benny asked. How can we adjust the numbers of our representatives? Because we have women reps, we have members of parliament, we have the Senate, we have the national, we have the county government, and all those representatives. I think it's obvious and it's true that we are overrepresented. We have women reps. In a proper democracy, we should have men reps, because under this generation, and I'm sorry to say, and I don't want anybody to be offended, gender representative is a position that is actually debatable, because again, what the Constitution of Kenya wanted to cure was the poor representation of our lady gender within government. And you can agree with me, if you look at the judiciary right now, a majority of women take up the biggest representation in the judiciary, from the Chief Justice going downwards. If you go to the National Assembly, we have big representation, and I think there's a question that was asked about recalling the National Assembly. I feel that the representation has not been felt and has not been, the constitutional requirement on balance has not been met, and I therefore side with the proposal that the president should dissolve parliament based on the advice by the former Chief Justice, seeking that they have not complied with the constitutional provisions, and therefore there is a constitutional requirement that the Chief Justice should advise the president to dissolve parliament. But in other areas of society, there is that gender balance. And again, our women representatives in parliament, they need to know that they play a major role. Because again, if you look at the role they are played, they are siding with government. So you do not have proper representation of people who can speak on our women within the society. Lastly, on the question of contributions to the Law Society, I think the president, if you visit the president's page and my page and any other council member's page, you will find, and the Law Society of Kenya page, you will find a toll number. If you intend to contribute to the individuals who have been arrested and incarcerated in police stations, if you want to contribute to cases in court on questions of abduction, being held beyond the constitutional period of 24 hours, then there's a toll number where you can make your formal contributions to the Law Society, and we appreciate that contribution. I hope I can take up other questions. I can allow other speakers. I know there are several advocates on this forum, and it's very important that we give them a chance. Kindly raise your name. But at this juncture, I will give Mike. Mike, you can take over the mic. Kenya lady, can you hear me? Okay, Omondi, are you there? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Cyprian. Keegan. Obadiah. Kipchirchir Mutai. Keegan, are you there? Kenyan lady? Omondi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed, Kenya. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a resident of Eldoret. And after the riots we did the previous riots, there was the burning down of Sudi's Timber EXO, his personal club. And after his club was burned down, they have been doing sham prosecutions. I'm going to call them sham prosecutions because of the type of bonds and bails that they were posting for people. There was a man who was accused of stealing meat, and he was supposed to pay about 10 million in bail or bond. I'm not sure, but yeah, that how does that even account for the crime that they're asking for? I feel like they've started doing sham prosecutions to do as a how will I call it, as a show of power, so that they can use people as examples, so that we don't so that we are in fear the next time we go out. And it is ongoing. I've seen even in Nairobi, the man who was being prosecuted for turning off CCTVs in Parliament. How can he have turned off CCTVs in Parliament and while he was confidently telling us on television, on Citizen, that he has CCTV footage of the people that apparently went into the Parliament? So if they have this CCTV footage, how was the CCTV turned off? And can these ministers be prosecuted for lying to the people because of the statements they're making publicly and the sham prosecutions they're trying to make, to use people as examples? Is there a way for us to prosecute them for what they're doing, or for us to hold them accountable for their words? Because it seems they can say XYZ and do the opposite, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Thank you. Paula. Keegan. Kindly unmute if I call your name. Obadiah, Engineer Eme, Gatswan, anybody? Paulo? James, can you hear me?
Hello? Hello?
James, kindly proceed. Godfrey? Godfrey, we can hear you.
Guys, can I speak?
Yeah, kindly proceed.
So there is a question. My name is Sure. I'm speaking from Nyamira County. So there is a question I asked about the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. So when we talk of representation, we should start with the offices that are unconstitutional. So I was asking, how did this office come to existence in the first place? Because with the constitution and with the different bodies keeping the government in checks, I really don't understand how the office has existed for the past 2 years and nobody's talking about it. So is there a way that this office can be done away with, so that it is not in the constitution, it's wrong, it shouldn't be there? So what is it that we have to do so that we get it out? And I asked that question, and I think you forgot to answer. Another question was on the fired cabinet secretaries. These guys,
They are the wealthiest cabinet secretaries in the past 2 years. They have accumulated a lot of wealth. So my question was, maybe they could be so happy that they have been fired, but they've stolen enough. So I wanted to know, what is it that we have to do so that we get what they have stolen from us? They have stolen a lot of money, and you've seen now they have shown the lives they show us. They were full of themselves, and I believe that it's a good thing if they bring back all the money they have stolen. So what is it? How do we start? What is the process of making sure that all the corrupt cabinet secretaries bring back all the money they have stolen from us, from the government? So if you answer those questions, the two questions, I think I have asked them previously, and I think you forgot. So if you can answer that, I'll be glad. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? Anto, can you hear me? Paulo? Karaim? Keegan?
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Proceed.
Well, my name is Peter. I've joined the group from Kakamega. Well, my question, or rather my concern was in regards to what the president, in regards to what Ruto has done yesterday by dismissing all the CSS. We shouldn't be happy because the last I checked, the ministers, and we have the accounting officers still in office. Maybe the Wakili, you can tell us what's the criteria that can be applied to make sure the entire system in the ministry, that is the accounting officer with the PS, the CS, are all sweet. We need fresh faces, new faces, vetted people, and all that. Is there a way we can also force for the PSSs to go home? Another thing, all these guys that have been proven to be incompetent, that the president has sent home packing, who are vetted by the parliament. And you see, if the parliament, I'll give an example of a vehicle. If you take all the public service vehicles are supposed to go through NTSA for inspection. If a vehicle gets involved in an accident and the inspection shows that there were some anomalies which were bypassed by the inspecting officer, I think it's also the inspecting officer by the NTSA is supposed to go home. The MPs vetted these people and proved that most of these people are worthy to hold their offices. We just learned that wengine sijui walikuwa na diploma in tailoring ama ni cooking na nini, but they hold very high offices. So please advise on what modality can be used to have the PSS go home and the House, that is the National Assembly, be held capable and as to why they vetted these guys and gave them a clean bill of health to hold such offices. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter. Fabish.
I've just spoken. Peter, I've spoken.
Fabish.
Yes.
Fabish.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can proceed kindly.
Thank you so much. And I want to take first this opportunity to congratulate Madam President Faith Odhiambo for being elected to head the LSK. And I want to commend all the LSK team in this regime that truly you are working and you have restored the confidence of Kenyans in regard to legal matters. I think it is the first time that at least we see lawyers coming together and helping Kenyans to understand the constitution, to understand the law, and in fighting for justice. We have seen doing a lot of pro bono. We really congratulate you and continue with that spirit. Secondly, I am joining you from Jakarta, Indonesia. We have a family community of Kenyans here, and we have a problem. I thank that at least I get this opportunity to address, and Madam President of LSK is here. We have an issue that as a community here, we have been trying to help. We have some Kenyans here, most ladies and some few men that they are languishing in Indonesia prison for various cases ranging from passports. Some they were used as mules, and they were jailed and prosecuted because they didn't have proper legal representation and the language barrier. And most of them, they lost the case and they were sentenced to various terms of jail terms. We have been trying to intervene and see how we can help. And when we engage with the Indonesian authority, we find out that they were granted a parole, which actually it is a standard that they are giving to all prisoners irrespective of the jurisdiction they are coming from. Other jurisdictions are doing the same. But now, when they were granted parole, when they went the procedure and that were required for them to undergo before given that parole, the last one was about the Kenya embassy to sign for them, acknowledgement that they are the citizen and they will help them in parole during the parole process. But the embassy refused to sign. When we confront the embassy, they told us that, we have to wait for the confirmation from the MFA. We wrote letters to MFA, and MFA again transferred us to the Attorney General. And we have been taken to circles. These people, they are languishing, they are suffering, and Indonesia is known for having overcrowded prison, which they are prone to diseases and malnutrition, etc. They are not helping them in any way, even those who are sick. Even there is one that we lost last year. He died of illness. So I want now to ask, as a members of a law society, how can you be able to address this issue? Because we wrote, it is the communication that we got from the embassy is that it is very difficult even for them to access the office of the Attorney General. And I don't know there was approval from the office of Attorney General. And we even engaged with Isaac Olochwer, who was trying to help in terms of, he drafted even a petition for one of the applicant, sent to Parliament that petition. That petition even is with us and is with the lawyer Isaac Olochwer, but that petition was not acted in Parliament. It was not read from 2022, I think around October until now. So I think by law, by constitution, Kenyans have a right to petition the parliament, but how do you petition a parliament where they close their ears? And if the parliament fail to act on a petition, where else can you address? We already even addressed the office of the ombudsman, but we have been taken circles. So I don't know whether you can have any help so that we can help these Kenyans. Second, my question I want to ask is about those corrupt individuals, like those years that they were fired, and other corrupt public officers that have been there before. Nothing is being done. And the Constitution gives a right to Kenyans that they can exercise it directly. I want to ask, is there a way that maybe Kenyans can make arrest if they feel like there is a corrupt official and that the authorities are not doing anything? Can they make arrest and go ahead and demand for prosecution from the judiciary? Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you for that. Keegan, Aluko, Elvis, let's talk.
Can I speak?
Aluko, proceed.
I have two questions. Each of them has got part 1 and part 2. So there are 4. The first question is that just a background to it. I've given up personally on the government of Ruto, and I will not ask any questions that will assist him stay in power until 2027. So my question is there a constitutional way by which he can be removed from power? That's the first question. Question 1B is, I have equally given up on the whole political setup that we have. We saw the main opposition party today. They were preparing on joining government. And if you look at presidents, even CS Namwamba, former CS, was an ODM Secretary General. So when they join government, they will go there. So the big question is, how, in your opinion, how can we, the people, effect this change constitutionally outside the political setup? Question 2 is with regards to human rights. 2A, do you have a desk as LSK that has information about missing people? 2B, if that desk is there, do you have information of people who are currently, as we speak today, in police dungeons with charges that are related to the protests that we had? On top of that, do you have a plan at every police station to give them legal service? Do you have a fund, for example, to pay them bond? How many of them are in jail because they are unable to raise the bonds? Thank you, Mr. Co-host.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can I ask my question?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you so much. My question is just, I just have one question, and it relates to those who violated the human right aspect. The police officers, the IG, under the command of the IG, now that is resigned. Is there a provision whereby he can be held accountable for his personal actions while he was in the office? And this relates to the rest, even the CSS who in the office who went against the constitution requirement. What are the provisions and what are the steps that can be taken? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that before Let's Talk you come in? So that we don't lose it, because there are so many questions. Let's Talk, can you wait?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I will only restrict myself to constitutional questions because, as I indicated earlier, I'm representing the President of the Law Society of Kenya. Of course, we have several advocates on this call. I'm trying to admit as many as possible to be able to address to the constitutional questions being raised by the members of the public. I'll respond to a few questions. I think some of the questions we have addressed them. There is a question that has been raised about whether by ALUCO, whether there is a constitutional requirement to remove the president from office. I want to refer you to Article 145 of the Constitution, upon which you can remove the president. There are several reasons why you can remove the president. If you justify the question of gross misconduct, if the president is bankrupt, if the president is competent, and you can justify all that, there's a process under the Constitution. If the same is processed through Parliament, and the same is passed by Parliament by 2/3 of the members of the Parliament, then obviously the question of impeaching a president will suffice. It's a tedious process. The Constitution of Kenya was innocent when making proposals on these issues, but I think the bigger duty as members of the public, because as currently constituted, remember the ruling party constitutes a majority of the members of Parliament in terms of numbers. So it's very difficult to impeach a president under the current government. But the Constitution did not ignore that provision. When you are discussing the questions of which government entity has disappointed the members of the public, between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary, we found out that the legislature, and that's both parliaments, have contributed immensely in curtailing the rights of the public, in representing the members of the public on the questions of representation, on the questions of oversight, and on the questions of legislation, because they have the mandate to legislate the laws that govern this country. But again, we had a discussion about these individuals get instructions from the executive. And when we say they get instructions from the executive, you remember when the finance bill was being discussed in Parliament, a day before the vote, they spent their time at State House. And in the public eye, that was an event that was supposed to woo them to actually vote for the Finance Act. And we find ourselves here today. And so there has been agitation by a majority of the discussants within this space, asking questions why Parliament is not taking up its mandate seriously. And even though we have had that discussion around 7 p.m., it's already 9. I will reiterate the position that we took earlier, that the reason why they have taken this position is because we as the electorate, from the respective constituencies where we elect these members of parliament, we do not consider the qualifications of these individuals. We do not interrogate whether they went to the schools that they allege to have gone, whether they have integrity, whether they have cases in court, whether they have a clean bill of health in terms of integrity. And so that it's very difficult, even at this juncture, to actually recall them. I remember under the previous regime of the Law Society, President Nelson Harvey did advise the President of the Supreme Court, that is the former Chief Justice, Maraga, to actually advise the President to dissolve Parliament on the basis that they have not met their constitutional duties. So there are several avenues we can use. And if the president was paying attention to what is happening in the public, and considering that that advice by Honorable Justice Maraga, Chief Justice Emeritus, is still in place, he should have taken that advice, even though the advice was sent initially to his predecessor, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. He can still take that advice because he's now the holder of that office and dissolve parliament. And that means that we'll go back to elections and appoint new representatives to represent us from each and every representative units. But we are here now. The Constitution provides for recall of the President. The Constitution provides for the recall of the members of Parliament. I ask you to pay attention. The Constitution is a very small document. It guides you on each and every aspect of law. The question on does LSK have a strategy on representation of individuals whose rights have been violated? And that I think it's a very important question. And we had already answered this question in our initial conversation. And this is what we said. We have over 30 cases in court since the first demonstration with regard to the finance bill. If you remember the Tuesday, when individuals went to the streets, the members of the public went to the streets, we have over 30 cases in court against individual office holders. That is the OCS, particularly Central Police Station, who participated highly in infringing constitutional and human rights of the members of the public. We have instituted proceedings against the regional head, Nairobi area, in court as the Law Society. We have instituted proceedings against the former Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Interior, Kithure Kindiki, in court. And I think a couple of these officers who had the mandate to instruct our police officers who came to the streets, who used live bullets, who actually abducted public citizens from their private places and released them without trial, violated their constitutional rights under the Bill of Rights. We have those cases in court. As we speak, the Law Society obtained orders from court that any person, any citizen within the Republic of Kenya who has been incarcerated for beyond 24 hours, if not presented in court within the 24 hours, he or she should be released at their personal cognizance. And I think that order has been slated hugely on the page of the Law Society, on the page of the President of the Law Society. And if you go to my page currently, you will be able to access the orders of the court for some of the matters that we have already instituted in court. And I think the question of holding these individuals accountable, and even though it's a repetitive question, we have already answered it as a Law Society, that we have taken necessary initiatives and we keep the public in check. If you visit the Law Society page on Twitter, on X, you'll be able to access the several decisions that we have instituted against the individual government entities and individuals who actually gave directives to use live ammunitions, to abduct Kenyan citizens, to kill and dump Kenyan citizens when they are exercising their right to demonstrate. I think I've answered some of the questions that most of the members have asked. As to holding IG accountable, even though he has been fired from office, trust me, we have several cases against the Inspector General of Police in his personal capacity. As a Law Society, there is a reason why we instituted these proceedings in his personal capacity, because we have reason to believe that these directions appointed by himself. And in any case, there is no provision under the new Constitution of Kenya 2010 to hide behind the office you hold to actually commit violations and offenses against the members of the public. I'll take several other questions. I have members of the public here and lawyers who can be able to assist us in this conversation. I'll take the several set of questions kindly.
Okay, let me jump in because I think for me, I think many people have spoken on the current situation in Kenya. They have proposed the way forward. But what I see in these spaces is we have a lot of ideas, a lot of proposals, but who is documenting them so that we have a roadmap to achieving all this that is causing the chaos in the country? Because if we don't provide ourselves with direction, we will take the direction of a tyrant. And we only have three options: either self-determination, and that is we give ourselves direction, or follow the direction of a tyrant, or we get lost. So I think the situation we are right now is because, in the first place, when we elect a president, the only thing we have is a constitution. But a president comes in with his own vision, with his own manifesto, which nobody holds him accountable. When he says he wants to create jobs, he does not give us timelines, and nobody can enforce those times because it is upon himself either to provide or not. You heard him the other day said, "I found you without jobs. So what are you telling me?" So I think we have failed ourselves for not putting the right systems such that whoever comes in, they have no two ways, they have no any other ways, but to follow the laid down visions, aspirations, and values. What is failing Kenya is the lack of values. Like, for example, you go in a primary school, you find kids with padlocks. Such little things is what grows in us, because once you have a padlock, it means you suspect your classmates. It means you have no confidence with whoever is surrounding you. It means already the thoughts of stealing has been installed in you at that young age. So it's about the values that we teach in schools. The child that is born today, how are we taking care of that new seed that has just been introduced into the land of Kenya? Because the future is in those children. Today we are just fighting, but our lives here is so limited compared to the child that is being born today.
Hello, I don't know whether I'm the only one who is lost or we are still on.
I can hear you. All right. So what I was talking about.
We are still on, Ndegwa. I will come to you, Council, in a short. Let our good lady finish.
Yeah. So I think what we lack here is the values, and what you are doing in this spaces is commendable because everybody is airing. What do you think is wrong? What kind of Kenya do you want? So this is the right time, because even if we remove Ruto, which we all want him to go home. Yeah, what we really need to do right now is to set up systems so that whoever comes in, they have no two ways about it. It's either there will be a road to be constructed between Mandera and Turkana. If you don't implement that, there is no, you have failed the people. It means you have no, but you have to resign. Yeah, so we need to have our own visions, and then the budget. Why are we doing a budget of 1 year? It's due 2024, 2025. That is why we fail ourselves, because it means we don't even have our bigger. What is our bigger vision? What we should be doing is planning 20, 30 years to come, so that we have a budget. Instead of coming to riot every day, reject finance bill next year, what we shall be doing is appraising the leaders. In this ward, there was a road that was supposed to be constructed along this area. Was it implemented? No. Who was responsible? Was the money released? No. Why? And to where? So that we know people should now fall along that line. We don't have to riot to remove a person. It should be their deliverables. Should fire them. Once you don't deliver to the people, it fires you automatically. Just like an institution, when you're employed, you have targets. When you don't meet them, you're given a warning letter. The second warning letter, the third, you sent home. Why are we not doing the same to our own country? So that we have, let's say, a budget of 5 years. Every year is just doing appraisal. This county government were given this amount of money. And this amount of money was supposed to develop these things and this in office. So I think that is where we fail ourselves. Let us put up systems. Secondly, let us have values. Because values, the lack of values is what is causing corruption. The lack of it. How can you steal money meant for children? You see, children are studying under trees, and someone is wearing a watch worth 1 million. Yet constructing 3 classes, is that watch can construct how many classes? It's the lack of values. And also, let's make corruption a capital offense. Let us have a cell in the Nairobi National Park, whereby we jail these people. We bring children from Mandera. Let us go and see these people who stole our money. Wakwe kama wanyama, tunawatreat kama watu waliiba, watu wanaenda kuangalia, undu waliiba hivi We put them in a place that it will be a public shame to steal even a pen. You will be treated like an animal. Uwekwe ndani ya huko ukae kama mnyama. Watu wanakuja all the way, want to go and see Ruto. Who stole how much? 20 billion. Tumweke hapo, watoto wanakuja So it becomes a lesson to everybody. So I think as we push all these agendas, let us think first, what do we lack? It is the system. The reason why Ruto is behaving like this or not doing the work he's supposed to do, it's the lack of system. If you elect somebody to come in and the only thing they have is their manifesto, and half of the country did not even agree to that manifesto, will he be leading us? No, he'll just be doing his own things. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ndegwa, are you there? Cyprian, I can see you're back. Can we have Ndegwa?
Yes, I am here. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Kindly allow Council Ndegwa to take over, then you can take over.
Thank you very much, Council, and thank you very much, the host, for this space. I think much of the revolution and the events that will change the course of this country are happening on these spaces. I have participated in several of them, and the last one that I participated was hosted by Dr. Mutunga Emeritus and Dr. Miguna. And one thing that is and I've also participated in various, but one thing that is so apparent is that people are so desirous to push for change of this country. There is an apparent agreement that the bare minimum that we want is a question of accountability. They also want to have institutions held to account. Most of those spaces, they are so much dissatisfied with institutions like parliament. But the biggest annoying institution is that of the presidency. And therefore, the agreement that is coming all over and the debate that is being generated is that we need to fix the presidency. What people do not know is how then do we start moving towards that direction of fixing the presidency? And what exactly is required of us to fix the presidency, and which constitutional tools are available? I have been one of the biggest proponents that this revolution must remain within the 4 corners of the Constitution, and that we should not engage ourselves in extra constitutional mechanisms that may make it difficult for us to go back to the Constitution. So when I was with in Miguna's space, I made the proposal of the 4 available tools. That is the first one, which is resignation. and the guy doesn't seem to heed to that call. The other tool is that of Article 145 about removal on the ground of incapacity. The other tool is about Article 146, the question of impeachment. And the other tool that I proposed is, if all these are not forthcoming, then we have to wait for the second Tuesday of August. But the biggest disconnect is that people are willing to move to apply these tools, but they are discontented and are not very sure that Parliament can raise to the occasion. So the biggest missing link here that is making it difficult for us to hold institutions to account is the inability of the institutions to exercise independency, like the institution of Parliament. So I am suggesting in the absence of Parliament, because Parliament plays a role, because the Speaker receives the resignation from the President and goes announced and all that. If then you have to use the tool of removal on ground of incapacity, again Parliament plays a major role. When you go again to look at the tool of impeachment, again Parliament still has to play the role of reforming the electoral system. So one of the things is that we must get Parliament back to the people. How do we do that? We may not overhaulingly, or we may not perhaps go and recall all the MPs, but we need to have 2 or 3 or 4 MPs recalled. And they're being recalled on the basis of compromising the most sacrosanct creed of people's representation. So that then the rest of Parliament will understand that Parliament is distinct from the executive. And if you are to do that, therefore, then some of the tools available like that of removal by way of incapacity, and I implore you to go and read Article 145, it's one of the best and the easiest route, because the Constitution speaks about quarter of the MPs attending, then the majority of them passing the motion, then the motion is transmitted to the Chief Justice, who within 7 days constitutes a tribunal constituted of a doctor and a lawyer, and then they have to evaluate the capacity of the president and then come up with a verdict. And the Constitution says that the determination of the tribunal will be final. I don't believe we can fail to get doctors and lawyers who can resonate with the clamor that is currently existing in the society. But will Parliament rise up to the occasion? And then how do we make sure that Parliament is held to account? Should we go the way of the salamu, ya kusalimiwa kila wakati? Should we go the way that the Gen Zs have shown us? And then to what extent then can we push that idea? Take over and deal with the issues of extrajudicial killing. This is beyond extrajudicial killing. In my view, this is almost to the level of extermination. When I was on Miguna space, a question was put: how many people should die so that then the threshold of crimes against humanity under the ECC statute can be met? In my view, I think the LSK needs to take the first action. That deaths have occurred, actions have not been taken by the requisite institutions. We have made attempts to make sure that the domestic institutions take over these matters, and they've just negated that call. I believe we need to go to the next level, where we're inviting the next international instruments to take over, so that anybody knows, whether you are Koome or whoever you may be, that you'll be held to account of your own actions. I am proposing, if members deem it fit, that LSK takes it, because LSK will take it as an institution, and therefore there will be no possibility of victimization, that we go to that now level of writing to the ICC, inviting them to come and evaluate the situation in the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much, Wakili. I beg to be guided. Thank you.
Thank you, Senior Ndegwa, for your contribution. I want to invite Zaka Lakonya, Counsel, Advocate. Kindly, if you can respond to some of the questions that were raised earlier. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel Manuel. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Proceed.
Thank you. First, I just want to quickly, there's a question that was thrown to the Law Society of Kenya regarding a certain situation that is developing in Indonesia, and whether and the challenges that have been experienced with regards to contacting and or engaging the Office of the Attorney General, and how NSK can be able to come in and help in terms of mitigating what is going on. My answer actually is a guide to the Law Society of Kenya in terms of how cross-border engagements are happening within the country, and how the Law Society can actually be able to come in and be able to help. I know